Wild Card Weekend. Honestly, for as long as I can remember, it has absolutely lived up to its name. It's a perfect appetizer for the rest of the playoffs, and it's featured some of the wackiest games in the history of the NFL. Wild Card Weekend gives middling teams a chance to steal the spotlight for a bit, show them what they're really made of. You get a battle of two teams who weren't quite as good as they wanted to be during the regular season, so they're out to prove that they belong. Well, except for the number 2 seeds. The number 2 seeds were just mad that they had to play a game at all. I was kind of disappointed that Philly didn't give Tampa more of a test, although I really think there was some dubious officiating. We talked about it on Whose Line Is It? Jason Kelce, all-pro center, one of the best in the league. And you're really going to call a hold on this? I mean, come on, give me a break. If we're calling all-pro centers for that in the playoffs, then I don't know what we're doing. But the Bucs probably would have won anyway, and it was business as usual for Brady, who won a relatively forgettable game. The big takeaway from this game is that Bucs offensive tackle Tristan Wirfs got hurt, and that's a pretty big blow. He's a really, really good left tackle, so hope he has a speedy recovery. So while the reigning NFC champion faced a mediocre 7th seed from Pennsylvania, the reigning AFC champion faced a mediocre 7th seed from Pennsylvania. The other Kelce brother fulfilled his lifelong goal of throwing a touchdown pass, and he added another monster game to his postseason legacy. It's cliche, but the Chiefs really made it look easy. And that's because, for them, it kinda is. The wild card is too easy for Brady, and it's too easy for Mahomes. But I gotta say, I did not think it would be so easy for these guys. You're about to see Mac Jones throw an absolutely gorgeous pass. Spoiler alert, it's not gonna matter. This was more than just an unbelievable play by Micah Hyde. This was a representation of a consummate changing of the guard in the AFC East. We've never seen a 21st century Patriots playoff game quite like this. If I show a non-Patriots fan footage from any given 21st century New England playoff game, you might have no idea what era it's from, and that's because they're all kind of the same. The only immediate giveaways are the quality of the picture and the chyron. They've essentially been winning the same way for the past 20 years. Do your job, be efficient on offense, apply the pressure on defense, take advantage of mistakes. And they've done a lot of winning because there haven't been many teams who are as good at putting together 4 solid quarters as the Patriots have been. These highlights are good, they're impressive, they're consistent, but they're not that exciting. That's okay, you don't need to be exciting to win. Don't get me wrong, they've played in some amazing games, but even when they've won them, their game-winning touchdowns are usually very pedestrian. They're sort of beautifully unspectacular. The majesty comes from the context, not the elegance. And even when they've lost big playoff games, they always go down fighting. Each of their Super Bowl losses from this decade have come down to the last possible second. They prioritize being meticulous, resourceful, consistent, fundamentally sound, so they've grown accustomed to hanging around with their toughest opponents until the final whistle. But after this play, New England didn't stand a chance. Also, the quarterback is every bit as sensational as advertised. I am convinced that Josh Allen is the love child of Brett Favre and Cam Newton. It took 2 decades, but the Bills have finally found a guy who could put the Pats through hell. New England's not bad. They have a good defense, they just didn't have an answer for him. Honestly, this game was just so delightful. Buffalo has some of the best fans in all of sports, and it makes me happy that they got to see their Bills beat up on the team that's owned them for so long. Now they're one step closer to getting their first ever Super Bowl title. I think that would compensate for their 4 straight Super Bowl losses in the 90s. Oh yeah, and speaking of relevant 90s football, the Dallas Cowboys also played a wildcard game last weekend and added a new chapter to their rivalry with the Niners. Now, San Francisco started out hot, and they jumped out to a 7-0 lead on an Elijah Mitchell touchdown run, and the Cowboys kept beating themselves. A second-half interception by K'Wan Williams put the Niners in position for a Deebo Samuel touchdown run. By the fourth quarter, the Niners seemed to be in good position to punch their ticket to Green Bay. But then someone very handsome did something very stupid. A A Dak Prescott touchdown run cut the lead to 6, and a solid tackle by Leighton Vander Esch gave Dallas a chance with the ball late. Facing a 3rd and 11, Prescott escaped the rush and almost hit Zeke Elliott on a floater, but they were a fraction out of sync. In time, this play will be forgotten, but I want to take a moment to appreciate its beauty. 3rd down, late in the playoff game, Niners-Cowboys, QB is swarmed by 3 defenders. Thinking quickly, he lofts a pass to his longtime teammate. But this time, falls harmlessly to the ground. Would have been cool if it worked, but it didn't, but the Cowboys still had another shot later in the game. In this situation, trailing by this, with this much time and this many timeouts, the Cowboys do this. I mean, it's just some of the worst clock management I've ever seen, and definitely the second dumbest designed quarterback run I've seen in my life. Second only to a play that happened 40 seconds of game time earlier. So Niners coach Kyle Shanahan called 2 plays back-to-back that serve as a perfect microcosm for his career. 3rd and 10, Niners need to run out the clock. Cowboys know a run's coming, but what they don't know is that it's going to be a reverse to Deebo Samuel that gets George Kittle out in front. This is a perfectly timed display of ingenuity, the ideal blend of creativity and logic. They needed 10 yards in one play, and Kyle drew up something that got him 9.94. Gaining the last 2 inches doesn't require any creativity. It's a QB sneak, just take the snap and fall forward. But that's not Shanahan. Shanahan always has to outthink the room. He's known for becoming too smart for his own good in the biggest moments of the biggest games. And it almost happened again. For some reason, when all he needs is a quarterback sneak 2 inches to win the game, he sends his all-pro left tackle Trent Williams in motion. Why? Why? I don't get it. It's 2 inches. Do you really need deception there? What are you doing? It led to a false start, and the Niners had to punt, and the Cowboys had a shot to win late in the game. Now, of course, they royally screwed that up, but he wouldn't have gotten away with it against the better team. He was lucky that the only result of this was superfluous drama. Would have been cool of him to save the drama for the other NFC West game. The LA Rams steamrolled the Cards thanks to a great defensive performance and a strong game from Matt Stafford in his first career playoff win. It's so nice to see him get the playoff monkey off his back. Something I've been saying all year is that the Cardinals' offense is just not sustainable. There's a reason why Cliff Kingsbury doesn't do well in the second half of seasons. But I won't harp on him too long. I'm really just mostly happy for Matt Stafford. But he wasn't the only former number 1 overall pick from the SEC who wears the number 9 to win his first career playoff game this past weekend. Joe Burrow led the Bengals to their first playoff win since 1991. This was a pretty good game. The Raiders fought hard, but the Bengals are just better. Derek Carr played admirably in his playoff debut, and if he stays a Raider, they absolutely have something to build on. They were dealt a terrible hand this season, but they still found a way to get into the playoffs. But the night belonged to Joe Burrow, and the Bengals are on their way to Tennessee. Overall, Wildcard Weekend was fun. It felt like a prelude to a thrilling postseason. All in all, we were dealt a pretty good hand. And the biggest joker of all is ready to enter the game. Any guesses who it is? I'm sure you already know. As great as he is, Rodgers has been dealt some pretty rough hands in the playoffs. His losses are well documented, but it's hard to blame him for the Packers' defense constantly folding. Several teams have had record-setting games against that defense in the postseason, and I think it's taken a toll on him. Is this his final go-around with the Green Bay Packers? I think he'd be more equipped to win a championship with many other teams. But you just get the feeling that he's overdue for a Super Bowl appearance. Will he make it happen this time around? I think it's likely, but you never know with this team. But one thing we know for sure is that the bad man is every bit as bad as he's ever been.